Hello lovely people, how are you all doing today? I do hope you are well. I am all the better for a bit of sunshine today. It makes such a lovely difference when the sun comes out, doesn't it? It's still cold though. The feels like temperature this morning is -1. So yeah, it's been chilly. The heating is just finished being on, so it's not quite as cold in here as it was, and I'm going to get cooking shortly, so that will warm me up too. So I thought I would do with you today another food for the day, food for a day. With lunch, I'm going to do the recipe with you. I'm inspired to have another soup recipe from the Covent Garden soup book. I was flicking through recipes sort of end of January, February, just into March, because it's very seasonal. And I saw a recipe and I thought, oh, there was one ingredient that caught my attention. I thought, oh, I would never have thought to add that. Yeah, let's give it a go, because I like all the ingredients. I will do a deeper dive into that, obviously, when we come to make it together on camera. So we're going to have a look at the food for my day, and again I will be, when I make my lunch, when I make the soup, I'll make 4 portions. Some will go in the freezer, a couple in the fridge. When I do my supper, I'll make 4 portions. As I do whenever I cook, I always end up making at least 4 portions of anything. You know, and that means then another day this week, there won't be any cooking to do, it'll just be a bit of reheating. Yay! So if I've got a really busy day or stressy day, I can just reheat. Brilliant. And some of the ingredients will do, it will be easier for me to explain when we go and have a look at all my ingredients. Just one final thing before we do look at the ingredients. I know that, look, we all pretty much, we cook virtually every day, don't we? Well, certainly I do. Occasionally there are those days when I'll have my lunch from the freezer and my supper from the freezer or from the fridge, as in I'd made it the day before. But cooking is a huge part of my life, and I'm sure for most of you. For whatever reason, it might be that you prefer to cook everything from scratch because you don't want to have processed food in your diet. Great. It might be like mine has been over the years. It's a way of keeping costs down. If you make everything yourself, you know, I've shown that time and time again with various recipes. If you bought it in the shop, it would have cost £1. Make it yourself, it costs 35p. If you've got a garden and you've grown the veg yourself, make it for 5p. So for me, it's a bit of everything. It's a bit of not wanting the processed foods, wanting to keep my costs down, and of course for all those years when I had a garden, of course I'm going to scratch cook because my veg don't come out of the garden prepared. So it can feel like a bit of a drudge at times, I get that, and there are so many days when I simply do not feel like cooking. So, oh God, do I have to spend time in the kitchen again? Wasn't I in the kitchen all day yesterday? It can feel like that at times, hence the batch cooking as well. When I'm having those moments, I try to remember a couple of things. I try to remember to be grateful for my food. And so before I actually start cooking, and I've gathered all my ingredients together, is to just enjoy the sight of all those ingredients, all those beautiful fresh veggies and herbs, whatever it is I'm cooking with, is to take a moment to appreciate the beauty of the raw ingredients and take a moment to be grateful for them. Whether it's something I've grown by my own hand and I'll know the toil that's gone into it, goodness me, and even if it's not something I've grown, to appreciate the toil that someone else has put into it. I know I'm sounding like a bit of a fairy hippie at the minute, but honestly, it really helps on those days when you might be feeling that cooking is all just a bit of a chore and a drudge. Just take that moment to appreciate how gorgeous your ingredients are and the work that went into growing, raising those beautiful ingredients. Right, enough of that. Let's have a look at my ingredients for a day of eating. See what I mean about having a moment to appreciate one's ingredients? Oh, don't they all look gorgeous? Oh, I can't wait to eat today. Right, so starting off, as always, breakfast will be porridge, just plain oats, and then with a teaspoon of cinnamon. And I know over the last few videos, folk have said, oh, you could add apple, you could add sultanas, you could add this, you could add that. Yes, I know, I could add anything I fancy. However, just with the cinnamon, I'm perfectly happy with it like that. Been really enjoying having porridge again. Yum, yum. Now, on to this soup that I'm going to make. I don't have all the ingredients that the recipe calls for, and I'm going to swap a couple out. So I'll give more detail when I come to make it. But essentially, I've got some leeks, broccoli, cauliflower, a swede, massive swede. Again, oh God, I think I weighed it. It was about, I think it was 1.6 kilos. 62p. They're sold by the item rather than by the weight. So I found a massive one. Now, oh, and then, so the mystery ingredient for this soup is mustard. I'll talk more about mustard again when we're actually cooking it, because, you know, French or English. And I'll be using olive oil today. As always, I'm right down to the last of this one. Before I start my new olive oil, I can't wait to try it. Now, when I do this soup recipe, I'm only going to use about a third of the swede. So another third is going to go over there into this evening's recipe. And then the other third, I'm just going to chop up, have it all prepped and freeze it so it's ready as the base for another soup another day. So that's actually going to go into 3 meals. The cauliflower, I don't need all the cauliflower. Now I could probably get 2 batches of soup out of this. So instead of 4 portions, 8. That's not what I'm going to do though. With the cauliflower, I'm going to, this soup is it's a cauliflower soup, but with the leftover cauliflower, I'm going to throw that together with a few other bits and bobs. I'm going to just experiment with it tomorrow. I may film that. So yes, that'll be my soup. And of course, all my green bits. And I know a lot of people, I don't understand this, chuck the stalk out. Use the stalk as well. If you find the stalk a bit too tough, I mean, obviously on the bottom where it's been cut, it's sort of gone dry and gnarly and not particularly appetising. You just cut the very end off. And like I said, if you find the stalk a bit too tough, it wouldn't matter, say, in a blended soup, because the blender will blitz all that toughness out. But if you were having it as a side veg, just peel it. Just peel the outer tougher part, and inside it's beautifully tender and, well, it's as good as the rest of the plant. So yeah, don't be chucking your green bits away. They can be used for something else. So that's lunch. And then for supper, I'm going to do with, because my celery is in water, it's sprouting and giving me all these lovely leaves. Great, I'm getting more bang for my buck. I'm going to do a fasolada tonight. I don't have any gigantes beans, so just for change I'm using little black eye beans. It's basically a Greek bean stew. And then as a little bit of a treat, I've got some feta there. Actually, that's quite a lot of feta. I probably only need about half of that amount on a portion tonight, and the other half of that bit of feta can go on a portion in a couple of days. So that's my supper, but it'll make enough for 4 meals. And don't forget, it looks a bit sparse now, but I'll be adding a third of the swede to it instead of potatoes. I don't have any potatoes at the moment, so fine, make the most of that whopping great swede I bought. So actually, I'm going to end up with, for 8 meals today, plus the cauliflower is going to do another 4, and the swede is going to do another 4 elsewhere. So fantastic. For pudding, after I've had my soup, I'll have a bowl of blueberries. This is the best bit of the day, isn't it? The snacks. So I'll have some blueberries for pudding at lunchtime, and then throughout the rest of the day my snacks will include sunflower and pumpkin seeds. And again, you might say, oh, why don't you put them on your porridge? Well, because by the time it's late in the evening, you know, when it gets to about 9 o'clock and I'm cozying up with a book or a DVD, it's nice to have something to nibble. So I save those. Instead of my breakfast, they can be my evening DVD nibbles. Plus an apple, a satsuma, and one of my other absolute favourites. Oh my goodness, don't they look gorgeous? Look at that colour. Some dried apricots. Now, I always portion them out. There's about 12 there, which is quite a generous portion. I always portion them out because I absolutely love these things. And if I didn't portion them out, I could eat a whole bag's worth. The bag is about, I think, about 250 grams. Yeah, that would be gone in seconds. So just portion out about, or is it more like 10? So yeah, so the blueberries are actually pudding at lunchtime, but those will be my snacks for the day. So, you know, apple mid-morning, satsuma mid-afternoon, and then in the evening. Oh, and the thing with the apricots as well, I'll be having them with the seeds, just combining them because, you know, I'm in danger of giving myself a massive sugar spike in the evening if I have them on their own. So I'll combine them with the seeds. But essentially, that's it. That's a lovely day of food. I've got most of the colours, you know, thinking about eating a rainbow. So I've got my oranges and reds and blues and green and beige. So yes, that will see me very happily through the next day of eating. Right, I'm going to get myself ready, and well, I'm going to have my breakfast first, and I'll see you back here for lunch, and we'll cook this soup together. Welcome back. It's lunchtime. I'm starving. So let's get this soup on the go. I've put a tablespoon of olive oil in the pan. I forgot to say, I've got a wisp of hair that's annoying me all day. I forgot to mention when I was doing the ingredients all laid out earlier on that the soup also has 2 cloves of garlic, and then the fasolada this evening will also have an onion and 2 cloves of garlic. So across today I'll be having leeks, an onion, 4 cloves of garlic. Well, not 4 because divide the meals up. You get what I'm saying. Good stuff for me. Yum. I love garlic. Right, I just wanted to get those in and underway. It's the leeks, and I don't know if you saw how green that was. Don't just use the white part of your leeks. Please use the green bits too. It's really good for us. And also, it's cheaper, isn't it? Because you're using more of the leek than chucking half of it away. Just want to get those softened, so they're just going to saute really gently in the oil. In fact, I'll pop the lid on for 5 to 10 minutes, so we can ignore those for a minute, and I can tell you about the rest of the ingredients. So I'm doing it from the, just lost a load of bookmarks, the new Covent Garden food company's A Soup for Every Day. I don't know where this frog has come from. It's probably excitement of getting some lunch down me soon. And I'm doing broccoli, cauliflower and English mustard. And it was the mustard that made me go, Now it's dated the 21st of February. That's important. I'll tell you for why in a sec. The English mustard, initially I thought mustard in soup. Oh, there's probably loads of you use it all the time. That's what I initially thought. Then I thought, well, actually, if I was doing cauliflower cheese, which I love, but I'm really trying to cut back on my cheese at the moment. If you were doing your bechamel sauce for cauliflower cheese, it's quite possible that you add some mustard into it. So I then thought, well, maybe it's not so crazy after all. I'll come back to the mustard, but just to say, so the ingredients we've got, it says a larger leek, I have 2 small leeks, 2 cloves of garlic, they're in the oil. And then it calls for 5 florets each of broccoli and cauliflower, or roughly 150 grams. It's a little bit more with the cauliflower that I've taken off. Then veg stock. Now, it also, in their recipe, they use, at the end, they use milk and double cream. I'm not going to use either. That's a bit expensive. I'm not a huge fan of cream, but it's, you know, that's going to add to the expense of the recipe. I'm not going to go out and buy a whole pot of cream just for 2 tablespoons, etc. And this is what I mean about, don't ever be afraid to just do your own thing with a recipe. Use a recipe as inspiration rather than being a slave to it. But because I'm knocking out that liquid, they've called for 300 mils of veg stock. I've made up 450. Is that 400? Give it a little bit more, make it more like 450. Well, I'm not going to be a slave to that either. And then the other swap out I've done, so I'm not doing milk and cream, gone. They also call for 1 parsnip. However, and this was the surprise, and that's why I was mentioning the date, that this is the 21st of February, and my date is, it's actually only the 17th of February for me. When I went to pick up my ingredients, there were no parsnips. No one had any parsnips. They seem to have disappeared already. All of those mountains of parsnips at Christmas. Plus, I did notice with the leeks, when I was buying the leeks, they were all quite small and skinny. So I think that's another sign that we're coming right to the end of the season with the leeks too. So I would say that if you like leeks, oh, if you're in the mood for a leek and potato soup, there's a recipe. I'm sure I've done leek and potato soup with you. Yeah, if you're in the mood for leek and potato soup, now's the time to get on with it. Make loads and loads and loads so you can put some in your freezer so you can enjoy it in the late spring once the leeks have all gone over. So instead of the parsnip, that's what I'm using, the Swede, I don't know what it's called. Just looking at the clock as well, how long has that been in there? We'll rattle on. So that Swede, I mentioned it was well over 1 kilo. So once it's peeled and chopped, I've got over 1 kilo. It's masses, 62 pence. And I was mentioning how, so that's a quarter, so that's about 250 grams. I'm going to put in this soup instead of the parsnip. And the reason I've chosen Swede, I could have done potato instead of the parsnip, is that parsnip is giving us that, sort of the fibrousness of the parsnip is going to give us that thickening of the soup. So if you can't get a parsnip, substitute it with a potato or a Swede. But when you think about how much so it was 62p, 31, so that's 15.5p. All of that veg for 15.5p. I don't think you can get a potato for that. So that's for my parsnip substitution in the soup. That is for my potato substitution when I make my fasolada later. And then all of that, actually I might divvy this into 2 smaller things because that's 500. I'm just going to pop it all in, those back in the fridge for now. Yeah, I need to divvy that into 2 smaller pots, and then it'll be 250 in each pot. And then at some point down the line, if I think, oh, fancy making a soup, I'll use that Swede that's in the freezer. Yeah, don't be afraid to substitute, make your own thing up as you go along. Now, to the mustard. This says Dijon. It's not actually Dijon mustard, it's just this an old pot of mine that I love. It's too cute, isn't it? Inside it, it is French mustard, but it's the one called L'Ancien. I mean, literally translates as ancient mustard. But a better translation, I'll show you now. Can you see? It's very grainy, it's got all the whole grains in it. A better translation for it would be old-fashioned. It's literally what it means, it's just old-fashioned mustard. I choose French over English, don't anyone shout at me. English mustard has got much more of a kick. It's been a long time since I had any. I didn't, I feel like you're too far over there, that's better. I'm leaning over too much. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've had an English mustard, so maybe it's time for me to try again. Maybe it was just the wrong dish I had it in that time. But I prefer French mustard. It's just got you still get that lovely warmth from it, but it's a more mellow flavour. So I'll be using a teaspoon of my mustard when I start to put this all together. But yeah, maybe it's time for me to try English mustard again. Maybe I'll see if a friend wants to loan me a teaspoon of it. So in order of sequence, it is a blended soup. Again, great, I like blended soups. The thing about blended soups is, as well, if you like some bits, some chunks in your soup, you can always take just a couple of cupfuls out to blend, and by whizzing up the fibres of your swede or potato or parsnip, that's going to help thicken and put it back in just to give it a bit more thickness but still have chunks. You could reserve 1 cup of the unblended soup with the bits in, just reserve 1 cup, blend all the rest and put that 1 cup back in, so there's just a few bits. It's entirely up to you, it's your personal preference, isn't it? But I love my soups blended. It always feels sort of thicker and more unctuous to me, and more, well, yeah, more comforting somehow. Okay, noisy. They need a few more minutes. After this, so I'll just rattle through what I'm going to do next. You don't need to hang around to see the whole thing. Once they've had a nice sweat down, in will go the broccoli and the cauliflower, the swede, the stock, the mustard. It'll all go in there, and then it'll just simmer away for probably, what do they say, 20 to 25 minutes. There we go. So what I would probably do is around about 17 minutes, just check them. That, for instance, I'll cut in half. I'll chop them up a bit. They'll cook more quickly. I'll check after 17 minutes, and if it's nearly done at 17 minutes, I'll turn the gas off. It's in a Dutch oven. It'll carry on cooking for a few minutes, and then once it is done, leave it to cool a little bit, blend it, and then we'll come back and scoff it. Can't wait, I'm really hungry. It's been a busy morning, and most of the morning, because I knew I was doing this recipe with you and it's new to me, I was like, come on, make it lunchtime, make it lunchtime. Alright lovelies, I'll see you back here when it's all done and we can have a little taste test together. Well, this is how it looks before blending. Have I got enough liquid? I'm not sure. I'll get that blended though. And yeah, it's smelling lovely. I need to move the pan that's sitting next to it. So the heat's off. I'm going to let it cool a little bit before I blend it. And next door, that's just coming up to heat, that's my Greek bean stew, which, yeah, once it comes up to the simmer, I will pop the lid on, well, turn it down, pop the lid on, and that can just simmer away for 25 minutes or so. And that'll be ready for me tonight. So I need to do a bit of stove jiggling, but yeah, let's get that blended in a second once it's cooled a bit. And now the blended version. Oh, it's a good thicken. You can see kind of how, whoa, that's so thick. You could, I suppose, you could have more water in it, more stock, or if you are doing the milk, actually, because the milk's only 60 mils, it would still be really thick. But in any case, I love my soups thick, so let's have a try. Now, it's cooled down quite a lot, so I'm just going to have a tiny bit as a taster with all of you. And then it's actually a little bit early for my lunch in any case. Whoa, it's a rib sticker. Yeah, I'll have a little taste now, and then I'll have a proper bowl full. I'll heat a bowl full up in about half an hour or so. Okay, taste test. I've just realised I turned the top lights off, so I'm suddenly in the gloaming. I don't need to fuff it, I'll just check. Oh, that's really yummy. That's good. Oh, I can't wait to have a proper bowl in, well, yeah, in I might not wait half an hour. That's really, really lovely. It's quite subtly the broccoli and the cauliflower. I'm wondering now what difference the parsnip would have made. I don't miss it. It's that little bit of mustard that's doing it. It just gives it a little bit of piquancy. Oh, it's really yummy. Oh, well, that one is definitely going to go into the repertoire. Vivi, it's nearly cold. Put it down. I'm hungry. I will decant it. I'm going to divvy it out. I think it's only going to do about either 3 or 4 portions because it's such a small amount of stock. But I'm going to divvy it out, and then in a small pan, I'm not going to reheat the entire Dutch oven, but in a small pan just heat a proper portion for myself for lunch. But that is gorgeous. That's a hit. That's a definite hit. So it just goes to show, doesn't it? I've looked in a recipe book, thought, oh, that looks interesting. Oh, I don't have half the ingredients. Okay, well, I'll substitute some. I'll leave some out entirely. But the thing that made me, or that piqued my interest, was the mustard. The mustard works a treat. So, well, that's a very happy success. And like I said, that's going to go into my repertoire now. Dead easy. And you know, this time of year, okay, yeah, I was saying the parsnips have disappeared. I'll shut up. But I just wanted to say, that's the thing about eating seasonal food, isn't it? Is that at this time of year, or especially, you know, sort of December onwards, things like broccoli, collie, leeks, Swedes, they're in plentiful supply, so they should be at their cheapest. And that Swede for 62p, I can't get over it. That was Sainsbury's, by the way. Yeah, 62p for that massive Swede that's going to go across 4 different meals. Brilliant. Chuffed. That's really yummy. Right, off you go now. I need to properly reheat a bowl for myself. And I'll see you briefly at supper time, and at the end of the day, see what food I've got for future meals. Last little visit from me today. That soup, I had the bowl of soup a little bit later on, properly heated, and it was gorgeous. I'm definitely impressed. It's definitely staying on my menu, and I'm thinking with all the leftovers, I might have enough to do another batch tomorrow. Did I say that earlier? I don't know. It's been a long day. Now, because I want to get this in the can now and not wait till like after I've had my dinner tonight, I'm not going to show you my fasolada when I have it this evening. You've seen that before. I'll put the recipe card on the end of this video. The difference tonight though is it's a bit of a treat because I'll be having feta crumbled on it, which is just so good. I'm trying to curb my cheese addiction a bit, but yeah, just a little bit crumbled on the top will be gorgeous. So now I've got 3 portions of soup, and I've got 5 portions of fasolada. So obviously I've had a portion of soup just now. One of those is for tonight. A quick check on my menu planner. I have a little menu plan on my pin board, and I'm looking to see, have I got any of these planned? Because I do forget otherwise. Have I got any planned in the next 3 days? Because if they're in the next 3 days, they can go in the fridge, you know, 1 of each or whatever. If I'm not planning to have one again until, say, 4 or 5 days, they'll go in the freezer. So a quick check tells me that I should put tonight's fasolada in the fridge, plus 1 more, plus 1 of the soups. And that means 1, 2, 3 fasoladas and 2 soups. So 5 meals into the freezer this evening to be had somewhere down the line. And I already have tomorrow's cooking planned. I'm going to be cooking again tomorrow, and I think while I'm at it, I might as well get stuck into making another collie. I'm just going to show you over my shoulder the craziness of the washing up. Oh, I've also dried as well all the pans and bits. That drainer thing I've had to recently purchase because my beautiful, gorgeous homemade oak drainer that I used to have there, that was actually the insert from the sink that cut out, kept and routed out into grooves. Anyway, after 20 years of use, it's had a right old hammering. It had started to bow, and then where all the route lines were, at the very where it slopes down at its thinnest point, it was starting to crack. And so as a draining board, it wasn't working because the water was going everywhere. So I had to say goodbye to it and buy that thing. It's metal though, so it should last me quite some time. But yeah, that was a lot of washing up. A lot of washing up goes into making a food video. Anyway, lovelies, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that's either interesting or, you know, certainly another recipe idea. Really pleased with that lunchtime soup. Like I said, do give it a go. So much so, I've made notes in my recipe book, giving it the thumbs up, but also saying maybe 1.5 teaspoons of mustard next time. I think it could take a little bit more, but bearing in mind that's the French mustard is milder. If it was English mustard, I think 1 tablespoon would do it. Right, that's a wrap from me. I'm going to get all the washing up put away, etc, etc, get on with some other work, actually get on with this edit now, and hopefully the edit, the render, the upload, hopefully that will all be done by 10 o'clock tonight, so I can turn the computer off and get to bed by 11. Sounds like a plan, doesn't it? All right, lovelies, until the next time, what are we doing next time? I think we might just have a little chatty one, and then I'll do the cooking I'm going to do tomorrow. I'll bring to you another day, whenever. Until the next one, please look after yourselves and have fun in your kitchens, experimenting with adapting recipes to suit either your taste or to suit whatever you've got growing in the garden or that's available in the shops. Have fun. Until the next time, cheerio.